And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyree Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is MMA Renegade. Recap of UFC Fight Night Poirier versus Hooker. Elijah, how are you?
My man. First off, let me say it's been about maybe 2 weeks before we've been able to get back and do this again. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful Sunday. It says it's supposed to rain, but I sincerely hope it doesn't. It's breezy. It's beautiful. Someone might say someone could have added the cover girl part there. Who knows? I don't know. I'm doing good, and I may go biking later. How are you, sir? That's the important part. How are you, my man?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm still social distancing. I've now there's everybody in my house now. Everybody's roaming around, so we're all in the house. Social distancing, quarantining.
As you should.
So I found a new setup, and now I'm doing it from not in my living room, from downstairs now.
Nice. Okay. So we're making moves. We're doing some things.
Yeah, you may hear a little bit of an echo, and I'm definitely gonna fix this up a little bit, but can't complain. It's way too hot outside.
Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you can see my face is getting a little sweaty. Starting to heat up. So yeah. Last night UFC put on another good card, another great couple of matchups. Last night we had Fight Night UFC Poirier versus Hooker at the UFC Apex Center. Of course, no fans are in attendance with the current rules regarding coronavirus and how still there's no vaccine. And of course, we don't want to increase the amount of exposure to the fighters and then the people, the media. So of course, no one was there. But nonetheless, these fights have been pretty spectacular, Tyrese. I don't know how you're feeling about them, but they've been pretty good.
Yeah, I thought the fights last night were pretty good. I thought the Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier one for sure as a fight of the year candidate, not fight of the year, but fight of the year candidate.
No, solid candidate.
Yes, I thought Brandon Allen had a great showing. I thought Mike Perry had a great showing. He proved us all wrong having him have just his girlfriend in his corner, which was great. Yeah, I thought yesterday was a solid card to get us ready for the next pay-per-view.
Agreed. For all of you who don't know, the main event and then the co-main event was Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Dan the Hangman Hooker, and then we had Mickey Gall versus Mike Platinum Perry. Tyrese, you want to dive straight into the main event?
Yeah, let's do it. So we pretty much called this fight by ourselves in private. We were saying that I had Dustin Poirier winning the fight. And the reasons why pretty much played out. I thought the power of Dustin Poirier was the difference maker. And I thought Dan Hooker, as good as he is and how as dynamic as his offense is, he just wasn't going to be able to hold up for 5 rounds.
What's interesting is I'm going to go ahead and toot our horn here. The amount of MMA knowledge we have, right? Because we're not fighters, right? So we're never going to sit here and be like, oh, I would do this in that moment, or I would do that, right? We just know how the fight game goes. And from watching Poirier in his last 10 fights, right? From the move from featherweight to lightweight, and then we have Dan Hooker, who's been on and I think it's on a very big win streak. Dan Hooker, if I'm not mistaken, was almost on. Maybe he beat. Let's just go with people. He beat Gilbert Burns. He beat Mike Vick. He beat.
Paul Felder.
Sorry, not Mike Vick. That's a football player. He beat James Vick. He beat Paul Felder, right? So he was starching a lot of top tier talent not starching, but he was beating a lot of top tier talent at lightweight. And coming off his recent fight with Felder, we had talked about this before this fight, that towards the later rounds, he seems to. It's not that he's not there, but defensively, he kind of takes more punishment. And that's the issue. So again, and we talked about Poirier. Poirier's power in the beginning of the round, beginning of the fight is there at the end of the fight, which is one of his more impressive features about him, right? We know his thing is great and his stand-up is great, but the fact he has that power from round 1 to round 5 is one of the things that helped him win this fight. And again, like you said, Hooker has the tools to put it together for a fight, but when it goes the late distance, defensively is where he seems to kind of not lack, but it just is not on the level of his offense, in my opinion.
I think you're right. And everything you just said. When I took notes during the fight, and one of the things I noted off the bat was Hooker did a great job starting off first. In the first and second round, he started off first. He was pushing Dustin Poirier back. I thought he was popping the jab really well. He feinted the knee early on in the first round to make Justin cautious about coming inside, which I thought was good. The leg kicks from Dan
Yeah.
Hooker was really good too, which hurt Poirier.
I will say this. My brother, is now a fighter after we put him onto this game, right?
Yep.
My brother pointed this out. My brother was like, he's using the leg kicks to chain attacks, right? He's using it to combo. So you throw a leg kick, throw a push kick, throw a leg kick, throw a body kick, throw a leg kick, throw a straight jab. So it's being able to be that creative, but
Yep.
also implementing other strikes with it. And I told my brother, like, that's side note, but that's kind of how Volkanovski was able to beat Max Holloway. It was the leg kicks. The leg kicks were the start of the combos. It wasn't that he only did leg kicks. Everyone looks at the fact like he leg kicked and was like, yeah, like he did leg kick him, but you have to look at what he did after those leg kicks, and then he was able to capitalize on those. But Hooker started fun. In my opinion, those first 2 rounds were for Hooker. Like, even the second round was a little more competitive. The first round, Hooker had him. And then I was telling we talked about this on the phone, like between rounds, of course, that Hooker looks good. Hooker looks sharp. He's hitting Poirier. He's tagging Poirier. He's not hurting him, but you can see a trend. And again, like I always say this, we always talk about this in the UFC 3 game. You always see that momentum bar shift towards somebody who's being able to hit someone more often. So.
Yeah, and but the thing about Dan Hooker also, I love that again. He threw the knees up the middle. He was making Dustin Poirier guess early on in the fight where Dustin Poirier had to figure out how he can get on the inside. And one of the things that I noticed about Dan Hooker in his last fight, but also in this fight, is that again, like his offense is so overwhelming. He tries to overwhelm with his offense that he sometimes lack in the defense department. And Dustin Poirier, to his credit, did a great job. Every time Dan Hooker tried to go for a jab, Poirier would counter with a right over the top. It kept landing time and time again, where Dustin's right hand just kept landing on Dan Hooker. And going into round 1 to 2, you're starting to see the damage of Dustin Poirier being able to counter Dan Hooker's offense.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have the southpaw. Yeah, it's classic southpaw versus orthodox, right?
Yeah.
The southpaw has the lead right. So that's the hand they can do. And for most people, I would say most people are kind of dominantly right? They have enough power. And we've seen this with Poirier. His power in his left is his power in his right. Just like I wouldn't say he doesn't have pure one knockout power, but we know that he can stop you. Yeah. We know that Poirier can stop you with the right or the left. That's not the issue. The follow-up on both sides is the key. And like you're right, you saw in round 2, you saw the wear on the left side of Hooker's face. Then you saw it on the right side when Poirier started landing the left. So you see, he had a huge at the end of the fight. He had a huge gash. It wasn't terrible where the doctor had to check it out, but he had a cut opener above his right eyebrow where he had to get stitches, and you just see that wear and tear from him countering by going over the top with that right hand a lot. And I thought that was pretty. I thought the adjustment by Poirier was pretty impressive. Now, of course, Poirier did win this fight by unanimous decision. Could you want to talk about the next few rounds between rounds 2 to 5? I guess. Do you want to? We'll go over that because that was we saw a very big shift. We saw those crazy exchanges. I mean, these brothers was brawling.
Yeah, I watched it back before we did the show, and one of the things I took notice was you see the shift towards the end of the second round where the damage that Dan Hooker was starting to take a toll, and Dustin Poirier was able to now get on the inside. Dan Hooker completely stopped with the leg kicks, which I thought were helping Dan Hooker, keeping Poirier at bay a little bit, and it was hurting Poirier as well. But Poirier
he had a huge. You saw that huge bump on his shin, right?
Yes, yeah.
It was huge. That was huge. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, and I don't really think Dustin Poirier even checked the kick. I'm not being.
It's interesting because Poirier he's a very great fighter, right? And defensively he's great. But what I've noticed about him, right, is he will take to a certain amount of extent to give punishment. And this is what sometimes may hurt him in fights, right? Because he gets excited and he does he kind of gets a little too rowdy, or he kind of gets off the game plan. And so Eddie like the Eddie Alvarez fight. Like he had Eddie against the cage and then got caught with the right hand by Eddie and then got stunned. And then Eddie hit him with the illegal knee, which, you know, he got hurt. Poirier got hurt. That's not the issue here.
Right.
But he gets, I don't want to say he gets too caught up in the moment, but what I've noticed about Poirier as a fighter is that he gets in that moment. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a terrible thing. But sometimes when in doing that, he can take hits that you don't want to get hit. And especially like a guy like Dan Hooker, that can be potentially fight ending.
Yeah,
I do apologize. I don't know if you hear the yelling by the neighbors.
It's all good.
Downstairs.
It's all good. You're in the building. What you call it? But the thing about Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier, I'm glad you brought that up because there was a moment where Dan Hooker has Dustin Poirier against the cage, and they're swinging left and right, and you see Dustin Poirier just swing with everything he can, and he hurt Dan Hooker, but he can't really capitalize on it. He's just swinging for the fence. He's not really looking at his shots and picking the shots.
Which is hard to do because I think the sequence you're talking about was when Poirier initiated a clinch, even though his back was on the fence, and I believe Hooker was just starting to catch him to the body, to the head. He was going body, head, body, mixing it up, and that was actually, to be honest with you, that was one of the many sequences. So you could be talking about a few, but you're right. Like he took those shots, and I was like, a guy like Dan Hooker could end you in doing that. So like you got to be careful.
Yeah, I think he almost did. I think he hurt Poirier in those moments where Poirier was against the clinch. He was going to the body. He would get into the tie clinch and even go and throw knees in the middle. And I think with Poirier, you know, like you said, sometimes he gets caught up in the moment. But when he calms down, when he actually is able to systematically beat his opponents, he looks better. He looks one of the best fighters in the world. He looks like a legit champion.
I want to attest to Poirier because, you know, I've loved Poirier. I love him in UFC, the game, because his boxing's phenomenal. I loved him back when he was at 145. A lot of people tend to forget, like, Hooker is phenomenal. Hooker's a part of that new wave of UFC fighters who can pretty much put it together, right? Like, they're putting it all together to be true mixed martial artists. But a lot of people forget how good Dustin Poirier is because if we really look at it, he's only lost to top-level talent, right? He lost to Chan Sung Young back in F45. He never got the chance to fight Aldo. He like Cub Swanson, they had won so many fights at featherweight, but they never truly got to fight for the title. But he lost to Chan Sung Young, right? Lost to Connor, bumps up in weight, loses to Michael Johnson, then goes on a phenomenal win streak to eventually win the title. And a lot of people were saying he was that guy that gets just to the top and then falls off. I always said, and we talked about this, and you mentioned this too. We know how good Poirier is, and we know how like he's been around the game for a while. He just needs that chance to prove himself. And I think ever since beating Max Holloway, he's shown that he can hang in that top 3 level of the lightweight division.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I'm glad you brought it up because that fight kind of resembles this fight a little bit. I think Max Holloway defense was a little bit more better, and this fight showed that Dustin Poirier's power at 155 is a difference maker. And it's not that he has knockout power like you said early on. It's the fact that he can stun you, and the fact you can't take that many amount of punches. And so
no, I agree. Keep going, brother. Sing it, brother.
So when Dan Hooker was trying to throw, you see going to the first and second round, Dan Hooker couldn't keep up that volume of striking, that constant output because of the fact Dustin Poirier kept countering, and every time Dustin Poirier countered, it made an impact. And you see it on Dan Hooker's face.
Swollen. And you're right. It's like and I will say this: Hooker is one of the toughest out there because if I'm being honest with you, a lot of guys couldn't take shots like that. I'm gonna be honest with you, and that's not a bad thing. No, there's not a lot of people who can get hit that on like that and survive that. I know I couldn't. I don't know about you, but like, there's no way. Like the hits, like Hooker would begin these combos and he would touch Poirier. Hooker also did damage, and we'll attest to Hooker later too. Hooker did damage to Poirier, and he was able. He landed some great shots, and you saw the wear and tear on Poirier. But in the process of starting and touching Poirier, it took only one hit of Poirier to get on, like you said, the counter of Poirier to stun Hooker. You always see him like kind of like, and then try to finish the combo, which wasn't bad. So when he was picking those shots, that's when he made them count. And that was the key to winning in Holloway's fight. That was it. Good.
No, I was going to say, and going towards round 3, round 3, 4, and 5, and even part of round 2, you start to see Dan Hooker get caught with some strikes because he's trying to throw jabs, and Poirier was trying to counter over the top. And you've seen Poirier finish up those combinations. He would land a right straight over the top against Dan Hooker. They would follow it with a left hand that would push Dan Hooker back. You constantly seen that combos of Dan Hooker throwing a jab or throwing a knee up the middle, and Poirier was able to counter that and able to throw in a combination that really stunned and hurt Dan Hooker. And towards you get to round 3, and Dan Hooker completely changed his game plan, which I'm glad you brought up in his last fight. He also did as well when he fought Paul Felder.
Yeah,
switching from trying to strike with you to now grappling with you. Only problem is, well, 2 problems. 1, he really didn't do nothing with his grappling and takedowns. And then 2, Dustin Poirier is so good off his back that it constantly made Dan Hooker work.
And I want to talk about that too, just really quick, because what was interesting, right? In the fight with Paul Felder, that fight was so close. I had it 2-2. I had that 2-2 going into the 5th round. Then in the 5th round, you saw Hooker shoot, take him down, hold him, and secure it, which was interesting because Hooker's this big guy. He's a striker. We know him as that, but he's he proves that he has the game to wrestle.
Right.
Now, in this fight, what was interesting, Eugene Behrman in the 4th round, the 4th and 5th round, was telling him, the game plan, stick to the game plan. I think the game plan was to try to get Poirier tired, then to wrestle, because we knew this was going to be a brawl at some point. When Poirier and him are tired, take him down, score those points, try to secure the takedown. Try to just secure the takedown, not to necessarily maybe do anything with it, but secure the takedown, see what happens. I think that was the game plan, which is not a bad game plan. But we forget with a guy like Poirier, who's been through wars like this, he brings the fight. Poirier does not, unless you submit him or knock his ass out. Poirier is going to fight, and again, Poirier is phenomenal off his back. What we saw triangle attempts. We saw omoplatas attempts. We saw armbar attempts. What was more interesting, in my opinion, was not the fact that he did all these submission attempts, but that when he was in guard with Hooker, he not only engaged in these short shots with punches, he engaged in short elbows, which also cut Hooker up as well.
Yep.
And I thought that was a fun, because Poirier, this is what Poirier does. Poirier welcomes the takedown because he has a decent guillotine. I don't know how many guillotine wins he has in UFC. I don't think he has many, but from what everyone's saying, he has a good guillotine, so he welcomes the takedown, and that can work to his advantage, and like a guy like Hooker, and that could work that disadvantage to a guy like Khabib. Now, for Hooker's case, that worked for him because Hooker was looking to only secure the takedown. We're not looking to take back. We're not looking to get him into the ground and pound. Hooker was looking to secure the takedown, rest up, get back up, let's get to fighting again. And I think that was that, and planning for that, they didn't. I don't know if they necessarily made the adjustments for that. Poirier would be as good off his back, and Poirier never got a takedown. But when Poirier started stopping takedown and sprawling, Hooker had nothing for him. And I think the ending of the fight, the fight could have been a split decision. I think it was very dominant, 3-4-5 Poirier, right? And I was like, I always give it to the judges, like, oh, like they could fuck it up. You know how I get. Yeah. I'm like, the judging, it was horrible sometimes. Yeah. I always go safe bet, split decision, or unanimous, right? I got split Poirier. If the fight ended with Poirier and Poirier on his back and Hooker in his guard, I feel like this would have been a split decision. But because Poirier was able to get the back of Dan Hooker, I think that's what really secured that round for him. Even though he was tagging him and all that, you just never know because Hooker was still getting takedowns.
See, I'm surprised you said that because watching the fight live and watching it back, I had Dustin Poirier winning round 3, 4, and 5 decisively. Yeah, and I didn't think it was like the reason why I'll say it's fight of the year candidate and not fight of the year so far. 1, because we're still in 2020, and then 2, because of the fact that other fights, like I think possibly the number 1 candidate for fight of the year, like Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Weili Zhang.
Oh, 100%.
That fight going to the 5th round, it was still competitive because both fighters were still.
It was 2-2.
In
my opinion,
both fighters still had the will And I'm not trying to discredit Dan Hooker, but both fighters still had the will and the technique to still go and you say either one could win in the 5th round. For Dan Hooker, after round 3 or in round 3, you've seen that the movement that Dan Hooker was doing, the offense that he was taking, and the grappling that he was doing, were starting to take a toll on him because now he couldn't return fire when Dustin Poirier was trying to move on him. And the amount of damage they kept taking was added up. And so you've seen the body language of Dan Hooker visibly not the same as Poirier. Poirier is the fresher fighter going to round 3, 4, and 5. And Dustin Poirier was able to just put it on him. And even though Dan Hooker was doing what he can, Dustin Poirier was just too much. And I thought he clearly was. I think he could have even stopped. If it wasn't for how tough Dan Hooker is, he probably could have stopped Dan Hooker in the 4th round when Dan Hooker was on his back. Another thing before we get off this topic, something that I'm glad you brought up was Dan Hooker's grappling. And there's a difference between what Khabib does with his grappling and someone like Dan Hooker who just wants to take you down. There was a moment where Dan Hooker had put Dustin Poirier's back. And Dustin Poirier, he for whatever reason, maybe he thought he was that good if he could get out of that position, but he gave up his back. And Dustin Poirier had the rear naked choke. He had body triangle. He had a rear naked choke. No, not body triangle. He had the back of Dustin Poirier. Looking for the rear naked choke, and then he abandoned it. And then Dustin Poirier was able to get back to his feet, and it went from there. But there's those positions where Dan Hooker, if he really was looking for it, I don't know if he was, but if he was looking for it, he probably could have had Dustin Poirier in some compromising positions where Dustin Poirier has to stay on the ground and work off his back.
And I think what really, in my opinion, I think the decision that he made was, remember that grappling exchanges are costly in terms of stamina. So I think Hooker made the smarter decision in not grappling with a guy like that. But also, like, you're right, like you never know, because like those if you're all tired and in a 5-round fight like this, and like a lot is on the line, like you just don't know whether or not that could have secured the win. So you're right, like Poirier was in a lot of compromising positions. But it's interesting that I think the grappling that is implemented by Hooker and his team isn't necessarily to grapple and I don't want to say finish you, but it's more or less to grapple, control, and score, as opposed to grapple, control, and finish, which is not under no circumstances is a bad plan. Because let me tell you why. If you were looking at it, Poirier, a lot of people can't stop Hooker's takedowns because Hooker is, believe it or not, Hooker's a big lightweight. A lot of people fail to realize that Hooker is a big lightweight. So if he wants to take you down, in my heart of hearts, I think he can. I truly think if Hooker wants you down, he can get you down. But again, like we said, it's what he does with the takedown. That makes the difference. So
and Poirier welcomes it too. Poirier welcomed it, and he welcomed it. He would go straight to a guillotine, which again, that still counts the takedown if you bring Dustin Poirier to the ground, even though he's going for a guillotine. So I thought him grappling, scoring points, that was good. It's just the fact that the amount of cardio and amount of the amount of activity that Dan Hooker was doing, Dustin Poirier was able to break that, and it would just keep going forward and keep pushing Dan Hooker, and that's how got the win.
Yeah. Just last note. I told my brother this because Poirier. A lot of people don't realize Poirier was 5'9" and Hooker's about maybe 6'1", 6'2". And I told my brother, like, I think Poirier is phenomenal, and I think he had amazing success. But we also fail to realize Poirier's reach is crazy. And I think that's what helps him too. I'm not saying it's like a cheat code, but like a lot of people don't understand that Poirier can hit you where a lot of people won't be able to hit you. And I think that's what defines a lot of his fights. A lot of people don't think that he's able to catch them. And I think that's what happened in the Gaethje fight when you see him throw like those hooks, or you see him like his arms are so long, a lot of people tend to forget that. So I think just that alone, I think that those facts alone, like his experience, make him one of the most dangerous lightweights right now, in my opinion.
And he's also a brilliant boxer in terms of what he
boxing is phenomenal.
His defense in that fight really showed to me. His ability to counter over Dan Hooker's jabs and to find moments where he could evade punches but also land on Dan Hooker.
What was interesting thank you for bringing that up, because that first round, although Hooker won, it wasn't as if Hooker was beating his ass.
Yes.
Right? Wasn't
Yeah.
like Hooker was beating his ass. And what was interesting is Poirier initiates a high guard, which and a lot of people think a high guard, like they're like this, or like this is a long guard, is a high guard, right? Poirier's high guard is this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to jab because this hand is here, and you're not going to be able to send a cross because this hand is here. And that's a lot of time what Hooker does is he likes to throw 1-2. Hooker likes to throw 1-2 or throw hooks around the side, right? Haymakers. And initially that first minute he couldn't do it because not only was Poirier cutting angles and shit, Poirier he caught a high guard like this, and TJ Dillashaw does that too. And I think that's one of the better defensive techniques that MMA fight. And it's again a testament to his boxing, because it's great to be offensive, but the defense is key in a fight like this, where you have such like good title implications, and like you could be potentially fighting for the title next. You know what I mean? Like just given the state of the UFC, you just don't know. And the ramifications for the winner of this it's just crazy. So like you want to cover all bases offensively, but as well as defensively. And I think Poirier did that.
I agree. So now Dustin Poirier beats Dan Hooker. Now, where does Dustin Poirier go from here?
Dustin Poirier. Oh,
no, I'm actually want to hear what you got to say, because I
lead that conversation, Jay. Oh, realistically, he could do one of two things. He could sit out. He could just relax, see where the title goes. Because Khabib versus Gaethje is this September, correct?
Yes,
that's what they're targeting. He could do one of two things. He could either get on that card and fight Tony, or he could fight Tony sometime in the next couple months. And that fight will get Tony. That fight will get Tony to the top, or it'll get Poirier next in line. Or the other option is to run it back with Conor if Conor's willing to come back, even though he retired, and have Conor fight at 155.
No, I think
that would be the other option. And that's what I was telling my brother. I was like, it's hard to say, right? Because Cejudo retired. They took him off the rankings. But I'm looking at the rankings now, and Conor's still here.
Well, that's also why.
Which
go ahead.
Kind of leads me to believe a few things. He may not truly be.
Sorry, guys, a little bit of a delay, a little lag as well.
Something like it's just like we're waiting around. It's retired, but it's like really give me what I want, or it's retired and give me the best offer, and I'll come back. But if we're looking at like right now, what UFC, the state current division of the lightweight, it's the fighting makes more sense.
I agree. The thing about Conor is.
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry. I'm lagging because I can see myself. Oh, this is so bad. This is so bad, Tyrese.
We're keeping all of this. You know what? I'll pause for a minute. I'll let you get together.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your whole entire screen is frozen. Yeah. Your whole entire screen is frozen. So here's what we'll do, right? Just so we could figure it out. You exit out and come back in. Yeah, you see his face is just completely just like, I don't know what's going on. See, you can't be outside in the buildings, man. You gotta go inside. So
the lag right now is crazy. Hold on.
Exit out.
Let me see. Can you see me? I can see myself lagging. Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Okay, so we're gonna.
All right, hold on.
Yes, I can see you.
All right, I'm on my phone. I had to go on my phone. I had to go on my phone, brother. Are we good?
We are good, sir. We are good.
Right.
You were talking about Connor in the buildings.
Now they get to see my man shirt. So no, Connor. The issue with Connor is I don't know if his retirement is necessarily I'm retiring till I get what I want or till I get the offer that I need to secure the bag again, or if this is truly me, actually retiring. Because if you think about it, Henry Cejudo is no longer on the bantamweight rankings at all, and he's also not on the pound for pound. So my question, I believe, is Connor truly retired? But that's a different podcast for another day. Realistically, the fight that makes sense in the lightweight division for Dustin Poirier is Tony, because Dustin Poirier is number 3, Tony's number 2, and you have Gaethje fighting, who's number 1, Khabib fighting that. So we could, in that narrative, the winner of Poirier versus Tony gets the title shot, right? After Justin versus Khabib. And then I think Hooker should fight. Hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Oliveira.
I like it. I actually like that matchup.
Hey man. I do it for you, man. That's all.
Wait, but so give me the rankings real quick.
So we have Khabib as our lightweight champion. We have Justin Gaethje as our interim champion, but he's at the number 1 spot, which makes sense. He should be there. We have Tony Ferguson as our number 2, Dustin Poirier number 3. Our number 4 is Connor. Our number 5 is Dan Hooker. Number 6 is Paul Felder. Number 7 is Charles Oliveira. Number 8 is Kevin Lee. Number 9 is Al Iaquinta. Number 10 is Diego Ferreira. Number 11 is Cowboy. Number 12 is Gregor Gillespie. Number 13 is Islam Makhachev. Number 14 is Beneil Dariush. And number 15 is Drew Daba.
Yeah, so I could definitely see Charles Oliveira versus Dan Hooker, because I think Charles Oliveira deserves a big fight. And coming up this one, I think Dan Hooker's stock is still up.
I think this fight, it's not like Dan Hooker got his ass whooped. This fight he didn't get finished, He got hurt. It was a unanimous decision. He got hurt. Don't get me wrong. But it wasn't like he got destroyed between the rounds, right? Don't get me wrong. Poirier, these were 10-9 rounds. They weren't 10-8 rounds.
Yeah.
If it were 10-8 rounds, it'd be like, ooh, like, should he be in here with these top 10 guys? Top 5 guys, that's the question. But he hung in there with Poirier. It didn't get finished. Now, with a guy like Charles Oliveira, who just got into the number 7 spot, this is a perfect test to be like, hey, I'm not moving for number 5. This makes the most sense in my opinion.
I agree. I think that makes sense. I think the Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson fight, that makes sense, depending on how long Tony Ferguson is going to stay out. I know he took a lot of damage in his last fight, so I don't know what his timetable will be. The lightweight division is kind of murky because of the fact Khabib and Gaethje is going to happen supposedly in September if all things go well. So it's pretty much just a wait and see for Dustin Poirier at this point.
Yeah. Again, it's the wait and see if Tony comes back, or if not, you're next in line. Fuck it.
Yeah, I agree. You see, now you look so much better. I think your phone is a lot. What kind of phone you got?
I have an iPhone 11.
No, but what service?
T-Mobile.
Okay, that's why. That's why.
I think it's just my internet, because it was acting up yesterday. And I didn't restart the router.
That's Spectrum.
Hey man, have Fios, man. Have Fios, man.
What, it's Fios?
It's Fios.
My Fios were perfectly fine.
Well, I'm outside and I'm not near the router. Like the router's further back than inside. So yeah.
You look great, though. You look great.
Thank you, sir. So let's move to Perry versus Gall. There isn't much to say.
There's not.
But I will say this. I don't know what's more interesting. The fact that Perry didn't have a corner, except for he had his girlfriend, his new girlfriend, not the same one he had that told him to kick somebody's, or that Mickey Gall had a full corner and wasn't able to win.
I want to pose a second question to you. I want to put another question. And I was trying to figure this out, and Mike Perry beats Mickey Gall, unanimous decision. We know about that. Mike Perry is solidified. We know how good Mike Perry is.
He's good. I will always make the argument he's good.
Just how good is Mickey Gall? I think that is the bigger question out of this fight than anything. Is just how good Mickey Gall is, because we know how good Mike Perry is. Mike Perry is solidified. We know he is a threat. Just how good is Mickey Gall? Because I still don't know it. He's 7 fights into his UFC career, and I still don't know how good this guy is.
That's a fair argument. It's hard to say, right? Because Mickey Gall he was brought in as the guy who beat CM Punk, but CM Punk didn't have much training. He doesn't have the experience. Then he beat Montel Jackson, but Montel Jackson isn't he's not a fully dedicated fighter. He's also a reporter, and he's a boxer too. So he dabbles and dabbles here. And Mickey Gall has some impressive wins, but he's fighting when it comes to fighting that high level talent. He also beat Sage Northcutt, but Sage Northcutt's really not. He walks around at 170, but Sage Northcutt isn't a 170er. There's levels to it. And with Mickey Gall, he's good, right? He's beaten some really good guys, but when it comes to guys who are who have that experience over him, it doesn't end up working out for him.
Yeah, we talked privately about Mickey Gall. My thing with Mickey Gall is, yes, he's evolving. You see certain things he's doing better than he did before. His striking was a little bit better, but it's just he doesn't look like he is UFC caliber level fighter. He just doesn't. He just doesn't. And I think this is the UFC's fault, and they wanted to bring in young fighters early on that pretty much didn't really have that much experience. They brought in Sage Northcutt. They brought in Mickey Gall. They brought in Paige Van Zandt. And you can make an argument that they weren't technically ready for being on the UFC stage against people that have been fighting their way to the UFC. Mickey Gall's second fight was in the UFC. The second pro fight was in the UFC.
Yeah.
So Mickey Gall represents that era of what the UFC was trying to do and trying to push young stars and trying to market them, and he just misses the mark.
And it's not his fault.
No, it's not. It's not. But he just doesn't seem like he belongs in the UFC. And I'm not trying to say that they should cut him or
no.
The optics doesn't look like he belongs there right now.
It's in facing that top level talent, right? Because the issue with welterweight, right? You have guys who are in the top 15 for a reason. Then you have the guys who are outside the top 15 who are honestly just as good as some of the guys in top 15. But because it's such a killer's road to get in top 15 alone, that's the big issue, right? Then you have guys who are lower, who can win or picking up wins but aren't picking up wins enough or things like that. And it's really just a testament to that there's levels to this. That's really it. It's really all it is that there's another level when it comes to fighting guys in UFC. UFC is truly some of the best of the best. It is the premier sport, the premier corporation for MMA.
Yeah, and let me just not just not crap on Mickey Gall, but let me just give Mickey Gall some props. Mickey Gall looked good in certain spots. He looked good. His counters looked good. He was throwing nice jabs.
He started phenomenal, in my opinion.
Yeah, he started good. I wouldn't say phenomenal. He started good. He was countering well against Mike Perry. Problem is, Mike Perry walked through those shots like it's nothing. He walked through Lucite Luque shots. He walked through.
I will say this. Perry got stunned. Perry got stunned a few times because he was catching him with those hooks.
I didn't see Perry get stunned.
No, not stunned. Sorry, let me not say stunned. He did catch Perry with a lot of good hooks.
He did.
Perry, you could see Perry. You could see Perry kind of his face had that wear and tear, and that's the thing about Perry. Perry's face, he wears the fight that he's in, and he was getting caught. Don't get me wrong, but it was just not enough.
Yeah, Mickey Gall did a great job in the clinch. Hit an elbow that cut Perry's eye.
He had a cut at the top of his head too.
He did a great job countering with hooks as Perry's coming in. So he had good moments in the fight. It's just that, you can't say after looking at this fight, you can't really gauge how good Mickey Gall is because of the fact that he still looks, and even though he evolved and he's gotten better in certain aspects, he still looks the same. And he's 28 years old. Yeah.
Again, I don't think this is not the end of Mickey Gall. I think this, again, it'll be a learning curve for him. And that's what needs to happen. I think he does need to go back to the drawing board And I think that's going to be the biggest. That's going to be the biggest thing right now is going back to the drawing board and seeing what really needs to be perfected.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the end of Mickey Gall, but it definitely doesn't look good. Especially like there's certain aspects as well, like him. There's moments where he has his hands down
Yeah.
against,
Well, that was towards the end of the fight when he was getting his ass whooped.
but it's also just like his body language and just him getting tired.
Yeah.
And to Mike Perry's credit, Mike Perry's grappling was good. Mike Perry was able to, like Dustin Poirier, was able to counter the jab that Mickey Gall was throwing and counter over the top that landed and hurt and dropped Mickey Gall as well in the second round. So Mike Perry is Mike Perry. We know who he is. For me, it's just like Mickey Gall. There was potential of this guy's gonna be the next big thing. He's gonna be the next big thing, and you pushed him as that.
Yeah.
And he has just not been able to live up to it, and maybe that's the pressure. That's more on the UFC than Mickey Gall himself.
What's interesting is I would have loved to have seen Mickey Gall versus Carlos Condit, the fight that was supposed to happen.
Oh my God, no.
I just want to see Condit. I'm a fan of Condit.
I'm a fan of Condit too. He was a welterweight champion, even though they won't count him as a welterweight champion. He was my welterweight champion. But Mickey Gall against Carlos Condit, that would look a lot worse than I think with Mickey Gall versus Mike Perry.
I think that fight had been a little bit more technical. But the grappling, and a lot of people forget, Condit has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. A lot of people forget that, regardless of his submission losses.
And then with Mickey Gall, there's one thing I wanted to point out. We talk about how he fights, and it just seemed like at the second round, you see visibly just taking deep breaths. There's a moment in the third round where Mickey Gall's grappling is still there, and Mickey Gall's still doing okay. But there was moments where Mickey Gall was able to get to sweep Mike Perry and try to get back to his feet. It goes for a double leg, it just forgets it. It just lets go.
Yeah.
It just goes back to his back.
Yeah, this is again learning curve. Big learning curve.
I don't know. I feel bad for him because I think anywhere else right now, if things were done different, maybe he could have been way better, and I think he could have reached that potential that the UFC was looking for. But I think them pushing him so early on, I think played a big role, and it's a what if.
Yeah, it's a big what if.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I agree. I don't disagree with that. I really don't.
Any other fights in this card that stuck out to you?
Well, when going on this card and looking at this card, I definitely want to shout out Maurice Green's submission over John Vellante.
Yep.
John Vellante was winning that fight as it came down to the third round. But then he submits him in a modified arm triangle, and I'm going to be honest with you. If it were anybody else, I don't know if they would have been able to pull that off. With the reach at 6'7", with the reach and the length and that kind of technique, that's hard to pull off. It's a very hard technique to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he even caught that to begin with was, I was even more impressed. So if he didn't, I don't know if he got submission of the night, but he deserved that. And then what about I got Brendan Allen versus Kyle Daukaus.
That was a good one too.
Don't count Kyle Daukaus out. He lost by decision, but what was interesting about this fight, and I'm a Brendan Allen guy. I've been saying he's one of my top 5 prospects of the year.
Same.
He could not stand with Kyle. And I think truly if Kyle was able to keep it on the feet instead of shooting at the end of his combinations, he would have been able to finish Brendan Allen.
Interesting. I think we both looked at that and it's like, oh, Kyle's actually a lot better on the feet than I thought.
Kyle's going to be a problem for
yeah.
I in my heart of hearts, I think Kyle's going to be a problem for a lot of people. I think he was hanging in there with Allen. If I'm being honest, he didn't get submitted.
Yeah.
He was there with the grappling exchanges, but when it came to the grappling, Brendan just had the edge, and that was the thing. And that was the issue with Kyle. He would strike with him and then try to initiate the takedown, and then Brendan Allen would secure a position that left him in a dominant position. He was just able to, ride him out and kind of score strikes, and that's what really ended up hurting Kyle. But on the feet, Kyle was tagging him. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pumping out jab, cross, jab. I was like, oh shit.
He I thought not stunned, but he caught Brandon Allen a couple of times. Was like, oh okay, It's a different
They caught
experience.
him. They caught him.
And I thought Brendan Allen on the ground is, you know,
He's
I think Brendan Allen has the potential to be one of the best ground and pound experts in the middleweight division right now.
Just because of how great his ground game is.
Yeah, and his ability to sweep and to transition as well. I see him versus Ian Heinisch next. I think that's probably.
It's interesting. He called Ian Heinisch now.
Yeah, they're both fight.
What other fights were for you?
By the way, Morris Green did not get performance of the night, which is crazy to me. I thought he deserved it.
Who didn't get submission of the night?
No, he didn't get submission of the night or performance of the night bonus. Kay Hansen got it. Kay Hansen. I thought Kay Hansen had a great coming behind performance. I thought
you got to take into account the whole fight because Maurice Green again, that fight was 2-1 going into with him and Gian Vellante, but that other girl, what was her name? Kay Hansen. She wasn't winning.
No,
she wasn't winning, and then the comeback armbar. That's impressive. Impressive.
And she fought for it too. It was yeah. I just thought Maurice Green's submission was just a lot more
unusual and impressive because it's not. You don't see a modified armbar like that. First off, you don't see anyone getting an arm triangle. You don't see anyone getting an arm triangle on their back.
Yeah.
The only person you could think about doing that is Alexei Oleinik because his strangle is so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That is the only man in UFC, or women-wise, I don't think there's anyone who does arm triangles from their back. Like the only person I can think who has an arm triangle, I think maybe Amanda Nunes, but she attempts those in a lot of her fights because she's so powerful. But she's always in a dominant position, which is the case. But Green was able to get it not only from his back, but where he was in a perpendicular to his opponent. So
and it was also dropped too. He was also dropped and almost finished in that fight. He came back and won that. So again, I thought Maurice Green should have won that performance of the night bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I thought Takashi Sata.
Sorry, there's a plane going above me.
I can hear the plane.
It's a helicopter.
Why is there a helicopter going over the building?
Huh?
Why is there a helicopter going over the buildings? What's going on over there?
After this, I'm going inside. Don't
Listen, man, stay safe out there in the summer.
Motherfuckers just tripping.
Yeah. I thought Takashi Sato, welterweight, had a great performance. He beat Jason Witt by knockout.
Yeah, a solid knockout. I mean, to be honest with you, there was only most of this card was finishes.
Yeah. I thought Kama Worthy looked good against Luis Pena. I thought Julian Erosa had I'm glad he had performance of the night bonus. He had a great performance against Sean Woodson.
Yeah. Do you think if he didn't submit him, do you think that would have been Julian Erosa actually winning that fight, or do you think it would have been a split?
I would have had Julian Erosa winning that fight.
The stats, to be honest with you, were really close in terms of striking, but takedowns. Julian Erosa was able to get takedowns, and I think that's what made the difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought Julian Erosa did a great job. I thought he was going to win that fight regardless. I like him. He was just able to take the wind out of the sails of Sean Woodson. He was just able to just put it on him. And I think we saw a small little chink in the armor of Sean Woodson a little bit. That maybe we'll see this. This is going to be a repetition, or maybe this is just a one-time thing. But Julian Erosa definitely on short notice too.
Yeah, it's short notice. I think short notice fights are great because you have to come up with a great, you got to come up with a game plan. You got to do all this in a minute of time. So you got to go really in there and just fight, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's a true testament to a fighter's true ability to prepare and train for a fight. I think the people who win fights like that, again, Frankie Edgar lost to Brian Ortega on short notice. But would that fight have gone the same way if Frankie Edgar had time to prepare? I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's impressive in the fact that he was able to finish an opponent. But it's always for me with short notice fights, it's let's just it was great. But would this have had the same thing? We can't always say this would be the same turnout if they had the full preparation for the fight.
And lastly, Yusuf Zalal. Yusuf Zalal beating Jordan Griffin. I thought Yusuf had a great performance.
Agreed.
And I thought he was really good.
Yeah. I mean, this is happening too, right? Jordan Griffin was losing his last fight, but he submitted the guy by guillotine, but he wasn't able to do that. Jordan Griffin it was hard, but Yusuf Zalal, that other brother came in the fight.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
I was impressed. Again, I think this was a great card. UFC Poirier versus Hooker was phenomenal. Was not, I wouldn't say phenomenal. It definitely delivered in terms of fights. I think we haven't gotten a war like this in a while, and we're not for people getting hurt, but also like we love a good fight, and that's what we got. In terms of this card, what would you rate it?
I would rate it a solid B plus.
Agreed. I give it a B plus.
Yeah,
I give it a B. I give it a B plus because there was the finish here were really good. Whether it was the Darce, the guillotine, or the being finished, or the arm triangle, and just the main event alone delivered.
Yeah.
The main event alone delivered. So that's why it's a B plus. But without that main event, it'd definitely be a solid B.
I agree. I think even with the main event, I thought there's a lot of bright spots that people you should look out for. Common Worthy, the Yusuf Dalal.
15 soon.
Yusuf Dalal. There's a lot of fighters that you look after this fight on the prelims. Kay Hansen. There's a lot of fighters to look at and say, okay, their next fight I gotta play close attention because they have potential to be possible champions one day.
I told you Allen was the guy. No one believed me.
And Brandon Allen, we both been saying it. Brandon Allen, I think, is somebody that's going to be a problem at middleweight. And I think hopefully I'll get him on here and I can talk to him, get to see his story, get to share that story. Yeah. But I think Brandon Allen has all the potential in the world to be, a top middleweight. Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. All right, man.
All right, man. Thank you for coming on here.
Happy to be back.
Last before we go. Anybody that next week we're gonna do there's no fights. We're gonna do a UFC 251 preview show. Just talking about the three title fights. Anybody that wants to come on here with us, you are more than welcome to come on here with us and talk about it. We would love to have you on there and get to pick your brains about it as well.
There's one thing we love doing is talking about MMA, and what we love is perspective, right? Me and Tyrese, I don't know if you guys know this, we get along very well on the show, but over the phone, we go at it. We go at it sometimes, we have very strong beliefs and we have opinions. And it's not that we say no to each other, but we hear each other out when we speak. So if anyone would love to talk, or just bring up anything that we, may not have mentioned, come on the show. Most definitely. We love to engage with each and every one that watches the show, and we love to listen to your comments. So definitely leave a comment. Tell us what you think about the show. Tell us what you think about the event. Tell us what you think about wanting to come on here. We would definitely love to have you set that up. What do you think about cat T-shirts, bro? Come on. Yeah. Talk about Elijah's internet. All right, relax. I mean, listen, I don't know how. It's the first time. Listen, we're not gonna, it. Show's over. All right, everybody go home. Stay out from outside in the buildings, bro. Head on the swivel. Head on the swivel. I hear him yelling outside right now. But definitely leave a like, subscribe, and definitely leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Signing off. My name is Tyree Simon. Elijah Jones. This is an MMA Renegade. Have a nice day, guys. Elijah, stay safe. You too, brother.